Before today's video begins, I would like to quickly just give a shout out to the guy that created this amazing art piece, as you guys can see right here. He is an incredibly talented artist. As you can see in this picture, he hand drew this picture, which is insane. And he also made me a profile picture, which I'm very happy with. If you guys want to check out some of his work, or if you guys want to ask him to make you a banner, his rates are very reasonable. I will link his Twitter down below so you'll be able to contact him via Twitter. And here are a few examples of the work that he's done. For the first time ever in all of the years that I've been playing RuneScape, and bearing in mind I started my account in 2003, I have recently found myself slightly demotivated as in what to do in the game. Which is really strange because I've never actually had a problem with finding something to do in the game, but recently, after completing the Inferno, I felt somewhat like a little lost puppy in terms of what I should be doing. Now, I think part of the reason for this is because of the Inferno, and that isn't me saying that I dislike the Inferno. In fact, it's quite the contrary. I enjoyed the Inferno so much. I enjoyed the challenge. The difficulty was absolutely spot on in my opinion. But what the Inferno did was it was such a difficult challenge to then complete it and just go back to doing ordinary stuff, like as you can see in this clip, running around the Saradomin and God Wars, killing it with the twisted bow. It just doesn't seem very challenging, and this is why I've been struggling so much recently. I hope you guys can kind of understand where I'm coming from. It's very difficult to go from doing the hardest endgame content to then just doing regular stuff, which really isn't a challenge in comparison to what I've just completed. It's very difficult to go from like those two extremes, if you understand where I'm coming from. But anyways, during the time where I've had the last couple of days just to myself, I haven't really played too much RuneScape. I've just been reflecting on the game and thinking why I felt demotivated, and it brought up a lot of questions in my mind which made me think of the direction the game is actually going to go in. Now, as you guys are all aware, the old school RuneScape that we currently play is based on the 2007 RuneScape, a time before all of the huge changes which eventually determined the fate of the game, changing it completely and eventually going over to EOC. I think it's incredibly important to learn from the mistakes that the game made in the past, which I believe the old school team at Jagex have done a fantastic job of doing so far, and I do believe that this game will be molded and modified into what we want it to be. Now, the interesting thing is that when Old School was first released a couple of years back, I believe it was 3 or 4 years ago, I was definitely not an advocate of anything being changed in the game. I wanted Old School. I didn't want anything outside of 2007, apart from maybe the exception of God Wars, but I was perfectly happy with having the main bosses being KQ, the Giant Mole, and Barrow Armor being our best armor. Bear in mind, at the time of release, the two best items you could get were Ranger Boots and a Dragon Fire Shield. Items such as the Dragon Square Shield and the Crystal Shield weren't considered a bad alternative. Now, with all of that being said, as you guys are aware, it doesn't take that much time to acquire yourself the best items, e.g. Ranger Boots and the Dragon Fire Shield, especially in comparison with all of the new updates and items that we have in the game now. Which I think for many people became clear once you'd invested so many hours into the game at the beginning and you'd already acquired the best items, which honestly wouldn't have taken that long. It was pretty clear to people that there are going to have to be expansions, there are going to have to be updates, new items which are included in the game to allow the game to evolve and to provide us with endless content. With all of that bearing in mind, Jagex have a very difficult job in allowing the game to evolve in a way which the players are actually happy with. Because I think I speak for a lot of people when I say we don't want a version of RuneScape 3. We do not want old school RuneScape to evolve into a version which is anything similar to RuneScape 3. The reason why we play old school RuneScape isn't because of the fantastic graphics, which is kind of apparent. It is simply because of the nostalgia, and we love this game for what it is. Which in turn puts Jagex in a very difficult position as of what updates to release, because they have to find the balance between keeping old school RuneScape old school while not letting the players get bored because there just simply isn't enough content for us to complete. Now, the main reason why I'm mentioning this is because it heavily ties into the way that I've been feeling recently, because I have just finished what I would consider to be the most endgame content that is available in the game. There isn't any other content for me to actually go and participate in, which is as a bigger challenge. And obviously the only reason that you would do the Inferno is to either get yourself the Inferno cape or to hunt the pet, which I really don't have the interest in doing. Now, if you guys remember back in the day, we used to have items such as party hats, Halloween masks, Santa hats, and rare items like that, which were discontinued and worth a shed ton of money, which meant that no matter how much money you had in the game, there was always a reason to buy those items, because inevitably they will go up in value in the future because they will get rarer and rarer while the years go by. We don't have anything comparable to that in old school RuneScape. Once you manage to get yourself to a 2 to 3 build bank, which is by no means an easy thing to do, and believe me, I haven't even accomplished that yet. But once you have accomplished that, there really is no incentive to go ahead and make any more money. And now, don't get me wrong, I don't believe that people will easily make a free build bank and be able to afford all of the items in-game. But I do think that that is a problem, because for those of us that have completed that, and do have that size of bank, and do have max stats, and simply are at the point where they basically have completed the game, where do you go from there? Now, I do realise for Jagex to release new rare items which are discontinued would be a very difficult task indeed. But when you think back to 2007 and back to playing pre-EOC, for me, getting myself a party hat was like an accomplishment in a way. It was something that I was proud of. It was a sign that I'd been successful in some way or another, whether it was through PVM, skilling, staking, whatever it would have been. It was an accomplishment, and it was something that was worth showing off. Ultimately, it was a completely useless item which did absolutely nothing, but it kept its value, meaning there was always a demand for them. Whereas if you take a look at old school RuneScape, the most expensive item in-game currently is debatably the Twisted Bow and the Third Age Longsword, two items which will inevitably go down in price as the years go by, as more of them come into the game. This to me is something which I would absolutely love to see in old school RuneScape. I don't know how about you. I would love to hear your opinions and feedback on what you think, and whether it would be a good idea to introduce these items into the game. I was talking to a few people the other day who I would consider to be in the elite group of PVMers. These guys were experienced, they've played the game for a long time, and they have a lot of good opinions as of what should be implemented into the game. And something which I mentioned, some kind of hard mode for raids. From my experience from playing MMOs, I remember back in my day when I played World of Warcraft briefly, I had friends that would play World of Warcraft as I do RuneScape. They took it very seriously, they were in clans, they were in guilds, and something that I really liked about World of Warcraft was that there were certain raids that you could only do once a week. I see no problem with taking inspiration and ideas from other games which have worked out well, and what I was thinking was they could do something with raids where they put on a hard mode. And this hard mode could be, for example, once you enter a raid on the hard mode which you have a 7-day cooldown on, you can choose whether it is a regular raid or whether it is a hardcore one. Now, this is just something off the top of my head, but I was thinking along the lines of making it so that the drop chances for items are greatly increased, while at the same time increasing the difficulty considerably. So for example, the monsters in the raids would hit a hell of a lot higher, they would have a hell of a lot more health, and you really would need to be experienced enough in raids with a good team to be able to complete it. It would also be cool if they threw in a few features such as once you die, that's it, you're out of the raid. If you die and the rest of your team are alive, see you later, mate. You're kicked out of the raid and they just have to struggle on without you. This is something which I really like the idea of. It's just simply an expansion on what we currently have, and it would just effectively be a different mode. And putting a little time cap on it, like having a 7-day cooldown, would mean that people wouldn't be able to just completely grind it. You'd have one shot a week, and during the time when you aren't doing your hardcore raid, you would pretty much be forced to just get better at raids in general. Now, I would love some feedback on that. If you guys want to build from that idea, that would be absolutely awesome. I personally love the thought of having a hard mode raid where they really do make it hard and you are severely punished if you can't manage to finish it, while at the same time, if you can and you really do have the skill and experience, you are heavily rewarded in some way or another. Now that is just one of the ideas I've got for some sort of endgame content for old school RuneScape. Obviously those are my opinions and my thought processes on something along those lines, but those are just my opinions and my ideas. I would love to hear any feedback, any of your thoughts on these matters. What do you guys think that you would like to see in old school RuneScape in the future? Let me know down in the comments and we can see if we can have a conversation and build from it. Talking about old school RuneScape and the direction that it's going in controversial subjects that people disagree and strongly agree upon is something that I feel very passionate about, and I can spend hours and hours talking about this stuff. So if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any subjects that you would like me to talk about, leave them down in the comments and I will try to make a video if you guys enjoy this one, and I will definitely make more in the future. And that is all that I have for you guys today. Make sure if you enjoyed the video, you leave it a thumbs up, comment down below your thoughts and opinions, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and I'll see you very soon.